Okay, guys, welcome to Between the Fronds. And we're here today with Nick and Frank, two local celebrities, some TV personalities, and also super passionate adventurers and ocean people. So thanks for joining us today, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Good to be here. So first of all, you want to sort of give us an idea of your background of your first interest in the ocean, your experiences so far as ocean adventurers. Nick, let's start with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I grew up in Pretoria, so the ocean was something we did once a year, if we were lucky, twice. And you dreamt of it all year long. It was your December holiday, and you would go down to the ocean. And as you drive towards the ocean, as you come in, you'd actually be excited to see who gets to spot the water on the horizon first.
That's what I call it.
That's how excited us Valis, we call those who used to live in the Transvaal back then. It was called Gauteng now. So I've always had a fascination for the ocean. And incidentally, when my wife and I met, one of the first discussions we had is the fact that one day we're going to move down to Cape Town.
Yeah, ocean.
So we've always wanted to be here. I've always loved the ocean. I was a swimmer when I've been hunting, so swimming comes very naturally, and being in the water is something that I just yearn for that feeling. So when we moved down about 17 years ago, we've been living in Simon's Town. We spend as much time as we can in the water, and then with my daughters coming into the picture, they are mermaids, and we go swimming every chance we get. So we have a deep affinity for the ocean and for exploring what's underneath there.
I think for me, I grew up in East London, which we literally lived 2 minutes from the ocean. I could hear the waves at night when I was sleeping, or when I was going to bed. Our first introduction to the ocean was definitely through surfing and all kinds of water sports, surfing, windsurfing. We did snorkeling and spearfishing and all that sort of thing. So I've known it since I can remember.
You're a merman.
Merman, for sure.
Oh, the merman.
I'm a merman. But
there's no good way to say that.
I'm a Neptune. There was something about the ocean that was just magical to me. The feeling of that salty water on your skin, I think it was the mystery and the curiosity of the ocean, like especially being underwater. That's one of the things that I just absolutely loved. And then surfing. I mean, surfing is just such an incredible sport. Exactly, playing. And then the feeling I got from, just being at the ocean and the beach, the smell, the feel of it, especially in summer, but in winter, obviously with surfing, the swells are bigger, so winter was also a great time. But yes, it's just something I grew up with, and very, just such a deep connection with that, and just loved it. I feel alive when I'm around the ocean. There's something about it that's it's weird, but it just so gives you so much life.
But that's exactly that gift that I wanted to give my kids, is for them to grow up like that, because we didn't. And you just see the absolute joy they have, and then because they've gotten used to the cold water, which you yearn for it after a time. You actually get to love the cold water. It's crazy. And
20 degrees feels too warm.
Yeah, it's too warm. So, and they I remember the first time I took them out, and the fear they had for the seaweed under the water, and they'd be like, we're skittish about everything. And the minute I got them into goggles, into proper masks, and I said, all right, now let me show you what's down there. They were fascinated that there's a whole world down there, So I think that's the beauty of discovering that there's this entire universe down there that needs to be explored.
It's crazy what Nick said as well. I spent about 6 years in Johannesburg. That's where we met, actually, on a TV show. And I remember his experience then, how I would whenever I could get to the ocean, or whenever we got to Cape Town or to the ocean, I was like, first thing, can we just go and ground ourselves a little, with the ocean. It's an incredible space.
Yeah, I don't think you know how much you miss it until you're away from it, and then you realise just how important it is.
Yeah. It feels weird being away from the coast, doesn't it? It feels weird being inland.
Yeah.
So you guys joined us for Scuba for Science today.
Yes.
So this is obviously one of our outreach, citizen science, community engagement projects and experiences, which is open to the community, to everybody, the public. Just give us a little flavour of what you thought of it today, from the arriving here at the Ocean Hub with Cape RADD, the classroom briefing, and then getting in the water and the experience generally.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think for me, one of the first things that springs to mind, especially when you're talking about citizen, as in like it's open to everybody, is you don't know what you don't know. And this is one of the first things I just said. I grew up at the ocean. You know, there's so much I know about it and have experience with it. I'm not scared of it, but I also respect it at the same time. But then when we did the little, the science dive course with you, then started learning about the different currents and what it actually does to the color of the water, whether it's, visibility is going to be good or bad. Why is the water temperature the way it is? How does that affect biodiversity and, the different life that we have in the ocean? It just opens up a whole new world for you, and a world that you actually end up loving. So for me, that was the initial sort of feeling, was like, yay, tell me more. This is amazing.
Yeah, the last couple of days have been crazy windy, and tomorrow is going to be crazy windy, and today was the most perfect day. So I woke up, actually sent him a pic. I said, it's just
so good.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And it really is a beautiful, exquisite day. But open cards, we get down there and the viz is shoddy for that first part of the dive. And normally something like that would irk me. I'd be like, oh, come on, why would the words? It could have been so great. But that little intro we did, that sort of theoretical contextualization of why the water looks like it does. Because a couple of days ago it was incredibly clear and clean and ice cold. And today we felt that the water is warmer, and obviously the viz is less. Now I understand why. So I could actually look at the water and suddenly have a better understanding of why it's in the shape that it is, and almost appreciate it more for that, rather than just be irked because the viz isn't perfectly to my liking.
There's like 4 trillion other things.
So there's a lot more important things that are going on than me having to fix it. So that theoretical sort of foundation before you actually go and experience it, it really gives you there's more immersion in just the whole scientific experience of going on that dive. So it's beautifully done.
A deeper understanding of the experience before you get in, so you appreciate it for whatever it is.
Yeah. Absolutely, but I think also the way you explained it was really easy to grasp, and yet it was insightful at the same time.
Your accent with some of the advanced words, I'm
working on it.
But here's the cool thing, Mike. I think what's needed, and this is a big word, but it needs a paradigm shift. Paradigm shift basically means you see a thing in a new way that you hadn't considered before. And I think that understanding gives us a paradigm shift. Like Nick just explained, his paradigm shift of going from, this would have irritated me before, now I actually can appreciate it and actually dig my hands into
change of perspective.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And how do you feel as non-scientists, as citizen scientists, as part of this program, your contribution and your engagement with the data and the objectives of the project? Do you feel like you've got a grasp of it and that you actually gave a meaningful contribution?
Well, I think what it does is it really piques your interest, doesn't it? In a way that is not just a fun experience and adventure. We love adventure, so anything that's, you had me at, there's this new thing I'm going to do. So Frank and I, we were like, what? Something new and adventurous, let's go.
When you ran, you had me.
yeah. So
it's going to be fun.
Exactly. So we're always up for that, but it's so much more impactful when you're actually getting a deeper insight into what it's about, what it's actually the foundation of. And for me as a father, and I know Frank feels the same, is that we really care so much about our natural environment because we love it so much and we experience it as much as we can. We want that to be preserved. We want our children and we want other people, adults who have the ability to have an impact, to understand what it takes to look after what we have, especially as South Africans living here in the Cape and in Simonstown. Just
so
unique, the treasure that we have. So from a not just an adventure, but from a scientific approach, it is a scratch on the surface, certainly, that we've just experienced. But you want more. You want to learn more. I want my kids to come and do this. I want them to fall in love and see it from this perspective as well.
But to add to what Nick is saying, the uniqueness of what we have in the Western Cape, I kind of knew it was unique. Like, for instance, our fynbos is like the only flora of its kind anywhere in the world. And there's 6 large types of flora. And And obviously through education, that's what I understood. But
also the prettiest girls, really.
that's right. They're like the flowers, like
Precisely,
they're like the flowers. So, but back to the conservation thing. The reality of the fact is that we never owned anything, like in terms of like oceans and beaches and stuff. Like we're only stewards. And I actually thought about this last night, knowing that we're going to be here today. Was I realized that every single generation has a shot at saying, this is how we looked after the ocean. This is how we looked after our environment. And knowing how unique and special and fragile, even though it's robust, it's fragile at the same time. Our ecosystem is down here in the Cape, and the marine, ecosystem and all the life that lives there. Just knowing that and going like, guys, let's be proud of it and let's fight for it. Let's protect it. That I think that to me is so vital. Even as a regular citizen, non-scientist, marine biologist, and then I played one in Summertide, and that's where we met. But even then, I think even through storytelling and through me being engaged with Summertide, I started learning more and more. And the one thing I do feel is like this enormous sense of responsibility and pride at the same time for all of us that we have been given as South Africans this unique piece of the earth to look after, and we should do it. And that's why I would just be so stoked if other people jumped on and came and said, hey, let's also educate ourselves so that you don't leave that can of Coke on the beach or that plastic packet. I've been involved in a little bit of beach cleanup stuff as well. And it's astounding when you start looking for trash on the beach, how much there is. So I think every little bit helps. And this is certainly a massive step towards changing your heart towards going from I know it's there, it's really cool, to I deeply love what we have and I want to protect it.
Yeah, I guess the best way to make people, or to help people understand and get involved with conservation, is to make them care, to get them to a point where they actually have a reason to go, hey, actually, I want to do this. I want to do it not because I've been asked, because I'm being paid, or because it's a virtue signaling element, but because I really want to preserve what we have. And so the only way to get people to understand what we have is to show them, and to tell them, and to do, as you say, whether it's a TV show or a documentary, or whether it's, this sort of undertaking, it's about educating people, not for frivolous reasons, but to actually show them what they have. That we have this is ours, and we have to pass it on, as you said beautifully, to the next generation, and say, listen, this is what we did, and we really looked after it. And okay, over to you now.
Because the important bit is, Mike, is in life, you can force people to do something out of duty, like I have to do it because they said I had to do it. Or you can say, well, there's a motivation to it because we can make a bunch of money. But none of those things will last and will have a good outcome anyways, because people will destroy the environment to make more money. But if you can teach someone to love something, that takes care of the whole lot.
Actually,
and I think that's the important bit, is that we get people to love this. And that clearly for me and for Nick is why I do it. I just love it.
Aline Prinsloo actually said exactly that. She's well-known freediver, and she was saying how she teaches people to fall in love with the ocean, so that they do it out of a sense of wanting to care for something they love, rather than a sense of duty.
Or look at me, I'm cool, I'm a diver, I can, roll up on Instagram and be like, no, man, do it because you love it. And when you do it because you love it, you're not trying to show off. You're literally going, get involved, let's love it well. Because if we love it well, other people can benefit, So,
which kind of leads us into my next kind of thought, which is there's a lot of people, you guys are adventurous, fit, healthy guys who love to be in the mountains, love to be under the sea. But there's a lot of people out there who they want to get involved, they're interested, they're watching the TV shows, they're watching it, but they're just not ready to take the step. They're a little bit scared. It can be quite intimidating. Even walking into a dive centre can be intimidating. Going in the ocean when it's a little bit windy or rough. What would you guys sort of say or suggest to entice those people who are a little bit scared and nervous? Perhaps they're not the strongest swimmers. Obviously, we did a scuba today, but we do offer a snorkel version of this as well for sort of less experienced people. What would you guys say in terms of that side of things? Your experience today would help those people.
Well, this is a 3-hour podcast, right? So the simple answer to that is something that I think we both live by, and that is you don't grow on the plateau. You grow when you're faced with adversity. So what you're talking about is people who are in the comfort zone, and they're like, I don't want to step out of my comfort zone. It's too cold, or I'm out of shape, or I'm not fit enough, or I'm not adventurous enough, or I'm a little bit too scared. I always tell people, just take a first step. So essentially, it's, people who are, all of us, we love being in that comfort zone. It's great. Comfort zone, a wonderful place to be. But I think of a comfort zone as a place you go to when you're resting from being uncomfortable. And so uncomfortable is where we grow. So I always encourage people, take that first step, be a little bit uncomfortable, and then let that little step be, what you become comfortable doing. And then you step out of that comfort. And you keep shifting that comfort needle until you look back and your mind is blown by what you're comfortable doing. And so you constantly will be pushing that envelope and just doing more things and being better at being in those situations. So, I always tell people anyone can do it. It's not about being of a certain genetic.
You don't have to be a pro to start. You just have to
exactly.
come.
You just need to show up, and the rest happens naturally. Everything comes naturally. You just need to show up and allow yourself to be pitted against whatever adversity you're facing, and you watch your mind, body, and soul do the rest.
From a practical point of view, one thing people might not know about diving, like in particular in scuba and snorkeling and stuff, is how unbelievably relaxing it is. It's not high adrenaline panic stations, flying down a mountain with
Except
a mountain bike.
if you see a shark, that happens.
But I mean, we did see sharks today, and they were actually beautiful. True. Because not everything is a great white. We saw puff-adder sharks, we saw the dark shy shark, stuff like that, and it's beautiful to observe them in the environment and what they're doing. And they actually are super shy. They're more nervous of you than you of them. But the sound of the bubbles is, just making a chimney up towards this, the surface. And just that you're almost feeling your heartbeat slow down, and you're in a new world, a world that you never imagined before. And so that's worth it for me to just to come into that world. I think what helps,
you're forced to relax, right? Because the more you relax, the easier it is.
The more you relax, the more you enjoy it. And I think there's a great saying from C.S. Lewis. He said, "It's really hard for an egg to turn into a bird, but it's a jolly sight harder for it to learn how to fly while remaining an egg. We are all decent little eggs at present, and we must either hatch or go bad." Meaning that you can stay in your little shell forever and a day and think that you can have your fantasy world and while you're sitting on your comfortable couch, but you go bad that way. But if you get out of that egg and break out of that shell and that little comfort zone, as Nick was saying, you can come out and find some new adventure, and you might just fall in love with something that you never thought possible. And that's my encouragement for people is come try it, come check it out. At least just come and knock on the door and say, "Hey, tell us more. What can we do, and how can we start the baby step process?"
So we're coming to the end now, but we'll just in a short sentence or phrase, how would you describe today's experience for you guys personally? The way it made you feel, the things that you saw, and the sort of outcomes that you believe it has had on you.
Oh, really? You're going to ask us to do short sentences?
I can do a quick short sentence. It made me feel connected. Sometimes you feel like your head and your body are like disconnected from each other. But this kind of brought the two together again. It made me feel deeply connected. It brought a certain level of peace. It got me out of my usual rat race brain into something a lot more grounded. That's, just the effect of the salt water, the being under the water, seeing other things operate in the environment, the sun, just, made me feel connected. I would say that's my word for now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually perfectly said, because you're stepping into not just a wetsuit and then the ocean, but into this incredible experience made up of so many different sensations, and you don't realize how they all work together for this all-encompassing just changing, and it really does have such an effect on you. I know that for the next couple of days, this just what we've been through will stay with us, and so what a quick fix to connect you.
100%, because I think our natural rhythms in life, because of who human beings are, we're essentially broken, and so we're constantly chasing things, we're constantly people stabbing each other back, and just our rhythm gets out of whack. So when you get back into the ocean where fish aren't planning the next takedown, they're just fish, the sea anemone is just the sea anemone. The nudie is just doing what the nudie does.
Being.
It's just being, right? So when you're down there,
Mm.
you kind of fall into that rhythm again. You're reminded of the natural rhythms of life. And I think it's like literally like the best medicine, to be honest.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because you feel like you're back in the womb. You're just floating around in the amniotic fluid.
Good, you're back in a rhythm where you're not trying to chase stuff,
Just being. I love that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to is for a moment in time, once again, you're just being like that.
Very lucky.
It's a nice place to leave it.
Yeah, hundreds.
Nico, Frank, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. And I really appreciate you guys using your profiles and your platforms to enhance ocean conservation. And on behalf of Cape RADD and myself, thanks so much for joining us today. Hope you enjoy yourselves and really appreciate your words and your time.
Yeah, it's a privilege for us, man.
It's a privilege. And I think on behalf of both of us, thank you for what you do. And what a blessing it is to have a job that, is your sustenance, but also is so impactful on the future and on creation. And thank you for being part of that and driving that so that others can come and take part in this platform. They don't have to reinvent the wheel. They can just come here and dip into what you've already created. So to you and the team, thank you.
Mike, I should say also, you mentioned earlier when we were doing the lecture, whatever, that you're a foreigner, but like for me, you feel like a brother in a sense because you've come to this place and you've loved it well. And that, as a South African, pumps my heart up big time, So, just so grateful for you and the work you do here. So, cheers, mate.
Thank you very much, guys.
There you go, sound sync.
Okay, we're ready. We're rolling.
I can tell Nick's very nervous. It's first time on camera.
Warming
As a
up.
diver, yes. Are we good with that time?
Let's just pause up.
Sorry.
No problem. I can't believe there are people actually working. Are we good?
Oh, it's outside. Okay.
I'll pick up there.
Yeah, thanks.
Describe.
Sorry, just to pause for 1 second. Danny,
Hello.
could you maybe take like a 10-minute break with your keyboard? Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I'm so sorry.
My bad.
Mikey didn't hear me telling Dad to stop working. Like, can you stop working for like
Okay.
2 seconds?
How often do people tell you to stop work?
Never.
Sorry.
Thank
you. Thank you, Danny. Cool.
Danny's suddenly feeling very self-conscious about her keystrokes.
Okay.
Is it Between the Fronds?
Between the Fronds.
Between the Fronds. Because I've got a Franks on the...
Between the Franks.
Between the Franks.
You need another Frank.
I'm going to need another Frank.
Is
What
that
is adding to what I say? Which
I'm not.
I get the
Okay,
feeling
I
that you
can
don't feel
No,
what
you know
said
what?
was-
No. I can. No, what I'm saying is I'm saying and. I'm not saying but. Because if I said but,
No,
it's
boy,
dismiss
don't
everything
between
you
you.
said. And then when I say and, I mean everything you said plus this little bit by.